This interview was a part of the Oklahoma Historical Society's Oral History Program, Living Legends collection. There is no original date given for this interview. The location is not specified, and the interviewer is not identified. The interviewee is Dr. Anna Oursler, that's capital Oursler. Dr. Oursler is a little too close to the microphone, which causes the sound to blast and to be a little bit muffled. We cannot correct this problem in the recopying. This material is being recopied on the 20th of October, 1986 for inclusion in the permanent collections of the Oral History Program by Judith Michener.
Dr. Anna Oursler. Oursler, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be able to say that properly. It's just like the book is ours and add L-E-R, Ler. She's Professor Emeritus of Foreign Languages at OSU. Would you like to tell us something of your background? I was born in Oklahoma. My parents came from Ohio here, and I don't know what you want.
Well, where in Oklahoma were you born?
At Kendrick, Oklahoma, just
Did you get your basic education there, your grammar school education?
No, I got my grammar school education here in Stillwater.
Oh, really?
And I'm a product of the public schools and the college,
Oh,
the
really?
university, OSU.
At that time?
At that time.
A&M?
A&M.
Uh-huh. And then after that, did you start right back teaching?
I started right back teaching. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Did you get your doctorate here?
I got my doctorate here, and I got my doctorate in Mexico.
Uh-huh.
And I was I can't think.
You haven't gone blank on me now, I know. You finished your doctorate in Mexico, and
Yes.
then came back and...
Yes, I taught for 10 years in the public high schools
Here in Stillwater?
here in Oklahoma,
Oh, I see. Uh-huh.
at Arapahoe and Grove, and
You remember some things about those little towns then?
well, at Arapahoe we had
Was there an Indian school there?
no,
No, just a public school.
just public school.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And are they much larger now than they were then?
No, they're not. They're not much larger now than they were then.
Uh-huh. What were the facilities for teaching at that time?
Well, facilities.
Just facilities.
Just facilities.
That was almost the day of the Little Red Schoolhouse.
It was almost a day of the Little Red Schoolhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, well, it wasn't quite that far back.
But it was comparable, in other
Comparable,
words. Yes.
yes.
Uh-huh.
I taught, besides foreign language, besides the German, I taught English and domestic science.
Well, that's a combination. Isn't
Yes,
it?
it is. It really was a combination.
Was that here?
No, that was in Arapahoe.
Arapahoe. Uh-huh.
In Arapahoe.
Uh-huh.
That was my first school.
Uh-huh. And you went from there where?
To Grove, Oklahoma.
Uh-huh. You were still teaching languages?
I was still teaching German
Uh-huh.
in Grove, and I taught music.
What a versatile lady I have here.
Yes, indeed.
Well, they were not very compatible, I shouldn't think, German music and domestic science.
No, but I taught them all, and I taught history, and I taught physics. I taught history in Yale, Oklahoma.
Uh-huh.
And Then I taught for 10 years, and then I came to OSU, which was then A&M. My professor was the head of the department was Dr. A. Arnold.
Oh, yes.
I don't believe he had his doctorate degree.
Oh, really?
No, he really did not.
At that time, it wasn't necessary.
No, it wasn't necessary. He had his master's degree, but he didn't have the doctor's degree. And
in starting the foreign language department, you said you had something to do with helping start the whole department in the university here. Or did you just come in as a teacher?
I came in as a teacher.
And did you teach just German in the beginning?
German and Latin. And I had Latin with the professor, with the head of the department.
And who was that? The
A. Arnold.
Could you tell us something about him?
Well, he was a very fine person. I don't know of any incident, but he was really fine. He was one of the best teachers that I ever had, I thought.
You have had very, very, very many people then go through your classes, haven't you?
Yes, I have had.
And have you kept up with them?
Well, some of them I have.
And what they've become quite famous, I'm sure. Some of them.
Some of them have. I had Spanish. Oh, Mr. Arnold, I was taking Spanish at the time that Mr. Arnold interviewed me for this position here. And he said, would you stop by the desk after class? And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? What has Miss Oursler done? And that was before I had the doctor's degree. And he offered me the job teaching Spanish here.
So you actually started then with teaching Spanish?
Yes, I actually started here with teaching Spanish. I had taught German in the high schools at Arapahoe and Yale and Grove.
There is a change in the pattern of foreign language, isn't there? The one that is popular. I know when I was in school, well, if I didn't have Latin, I was in a bad way. And I had an awful time getting through it. You wouldn't like me a bit. I think it took me 4 years to get 2 to my credit. But there has been quite a change, hasn't there?
Oh, yes, there really has been.
What, was German the more popular language at that time?
German was the most popular at that time, the more popular at that time.
And then we came into the Spanish?
And then we came into the Spanish. I think the Spanish was important because of the proximity that we are to Mexico. And of course, in Mexico they speak Spanish, and South America.
The war had quite a lot to do with that too, didn't it?
Yes.
Were you here at the end of the war or
Yes.
during the war?
Yes.
Well, there was quite a change in the classes then, was there not?
Yes, there really was.
Well, did you find it different in your teaching when the men started coming back from abroad?
Oh, yes. My classes were full. I would have as many as 100 in one classroom.
Really?
It was really distressing.
Too many for you to handle.
Too many.
Yes. But it was magnificent that the interest had increased,
yes.
wasn't it?
Yes, it really was.
Were most of the men then at that time?
Yes.
I think the ratio's always been about 2 to 1 here, hasn't it?
Yes. The ratio is
2 men to 1.
2 men to 1 woman.
Which do you find your better student?
Well, I don't know.
You can't say.
I don't believe I could say.
I was just thinking there might be a more affability of the male than there would be the female when it comes to picking up foreign language.
I don't know that there is.
I was just wondering.
Of course, if the man took it at all, at the time that I was teaching, why they were motivated and they wanted the foreign language, and the girls, I found, took it more just because.
Romance, in other words.
Yes.
Yes. Has there been a great, would you like to tell us something about the great change in Stillwater and the university itself since the time you came here?
Or you can shut your eyes almost and stoop to pick over a pencil, and when you rise up, yes, when you rise up, you'll find that the campus has changed.
Has that been going on for quite some while? Or?
Yes, it has.
Was Dr. Bennett really the one who instigated that, or had it started before that?
No, Dr. Bennett did, I think, instigate it.
It was his vision.
It was his vision.
Were you here during the time of the political upheavals when the...
No, I was not.
You weren't.
Thank goodness.
I heard about that this morning, and I thought maybe you'd like to enlarge
No,
on it a
I
bit.
was not here. I came under Dr. Bradford Knapp. He was president at the time that I came. And then I believe Dr. Bennett followed him.
Did you know Dr. Bennett well?
No, yes, I did.
What was your feeling about the man?
Well, he was very fine. He was a fine administrator. I think he was one of the best that we've had.
His personality, was it overwhelming?
Overwhelming, yes.
Well, tell me some more about your classes there back during the war, and I mean after the war and that time. You had spread out now and you were teaching Spanish and what?
Spanish and, mostly Spanish.
Oh, really?
Spanish and German.
No Latin here?
No Latin.
Are you kind of glad it's a dead language?
Well, I wouldn't call it dead.
No, I guess not. Not with our positions and such, huh?
No.
Your background here in Stillwater, you said that you actually were a product of Stillwater.
That's right. I grew up, I graduated from high school here and entered the college, which was A&M at that time, and got my master's degree from this college. And
oh, it was your doctorate you got in Mexico.
And I got the doctorate in Mexico. I had gone to Spain, but they were having the revolutions in Spain at that time. At the time that I went for the doctorate degree, doctor's degree, and they would when I would go in the mornings, I would see the students standing in the windows, and they would say, "Down with the administration," and the next thing I knew, the university would be closed. So it was closed and opened about half the time that I was there, was in Spain.
Oh, really? Now, which revolution was this? This was about...
That was the, about 36.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And then so you went to Mexico and got your doctorate there?
Uh-huh. Went to Mexico and got
Well, we're
a
finding
doctorate
a muchly traveled Okie then here, aren't we?
Yes.
What was the situation during the Depression years here at the university? Do you remember anything particular about that?
I don't remember anything in particular about that, the Depression years.
Well, it was so bad all over that I just thought maybe there might be something that stuck in your mind about that. You have many wonderful friends then on the faculty here.
Yes, I have. I have been retired for 10 years.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, my word.
So that there has been a great change in the faculty since I was retired.
Well, I am sure. The gentleman that I was talking with this morning, I've had the two Mr. Martins this morning.
Frank and A.O.
A.O., yes. And Mr. A.O. was telling me about the beginning of the Alumni Association. I'm sure you remember.
Yes.
Back at that time, too.
He was the secretary.
Did you have anything to do with that?
No, I had nothing to do with that. I really had nothing to do with anything with the school, except I was in the classroom.
Well, that is much, I am sure. No, I was just thinking that maybe you had knew some of these men, that you might tell me a story that they wouldn't tell on themselves.
No, I'm sorry, I don't know anything.
Back to the city of Stillwater. Tell me about it when you were a girl.
Well, it was a very small town, about 2,000.
Oh, that small?
It was really quite small. That was exclusive of the campus. And of course it has increased, it has grown quite considerably in the length of time that I was in the classroom.
Well, I should say, I'm sure it's a big town now. It's a city, in other words. I imagine that you can almost shut your eyes and dream of it when you were a young girl and see it in a very different perspective than we can.
I expect that I do. I don't know that I have anything to say about the stores or I remember when the automobile came to town.
Do you?
Oh, yes, I do.
Really? Did they call them racket stores then?
There was a racket store.
That was a 5 and dime, wasn't it? A long time ago. It was a racket store. I wonder where that word came from.
I don't know.
You should be able to tell
I
me
should
with
be
your
able to
background.
I can't tell you about that.
I've often wondered where that word came from and why it was connected with a store. I guess it was just a racket, whatever you picked up, huh? There was a very, very small community then, so far as business was concerned.
Yes.
Did it draw it from the farms?
Yes. It drew from the farms.
What did your parents do? Your father?
My father was an insurance agent,
Oh, really?
and he wrote farm insurance.
And there were
He
many
traveled.
farms around here then,
Oh,
weren't there?
yes.
What were they? About an acre? Well, no, a section, wasn't it? About a
Section.
section, yes. And he wrote the farm insurance. You remember who he was with?
He was with a home insurance company,
Is that true?
and with a Continental.
I think it's very interesting, the change in the farmlands in this, right around in this part of the country. The fact that there used to be a section was a farm, and now, what is it, be thousands of acres can be a ranch, run by one man, or owned by one man. I think that's one thing we're missing terribly now.
Is the individual ownership.
Yes, of the closeness to the earth. I really do. Back to your teaching languages. Why did you choose languages?
Well, I just thought that they were important, and particularly the German and the Spanish, as I said, because the Spanish, because we were so close to Latin America, South America, and Portuguese.
Oh, really?
And Italian, but I have no French.
Well, now that's a fluke. How did that happen?
I don't know how it happened that I have no French, but I haven't. I have Portuguese and Italian.
And Spanish and German.
Spanish and German.
And no French.
No French.
Latin.
Latin. Of course, the Portuguese and the Spanish and the French and Italian are pretty close to the Latin. They're closer, the Spanish is closer to the Latin than the Italian is itself.
Oh. Which, of course, Spanish has been the most popular always, hasn't it?
Yes, I think it has.
I was just wondering, if you look back on your career, what is outstanding with your teaching here?
Well, I don't know.
What is the greatest fulfillment that you have?
Fulfillment? Oh, I suppose that it is feeling that you're helping the students and that they are getting something worthwhile from you.
Just on my own, I have never, this wasn't even suggested to me in interviewing, but this morning I have, both of the other gentlemen have asked to compare the students when they retired and then the students when they first started. And I got some very interesting answers in the comparison of the generations. Would you like to say something about that? Comparing the young people of when you first started teaching and then when you retired.
Well, of course, the young people when I first started teaching were really motivated, and then when I stopped teaching, I felt that they were not so highly motivated as they had been.
They really wanted an education.
Yes, they really wanted an education.
Most of the people who came here, the students who came here then, were from Oklahoma, were they not?
Yes. And that has changed quite largely because, well, Oklahoma is so much cheaper than the eastern seaboard colleges are. Living is so much easier here than it was in the eastern or western states.
Of course, we can't compare prices from when you started is when you retired.
No.
But did you find that there was a greater respect for money at that time than there is now?
I believe there was a greater respect for money.
What would you how would you account for that?
Well, it was harder to come by, for one thing.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't handed out?
Wasn't handed out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
did you find greater respect in this back at that time?
yes,
You lay that to family training or what?
family training, partially,
And what else?
and well, I don't know what else. Family training, I suppose.
Of course, the times, I guess, have, when we think of communication and so on and so forth, have much to do with it. But our young people now see so much and experience so much that they don't have the chance to really
Digest it.
That's right.
Digest it.
Yes.
They
And then
don't
they
have-
had to fight for everything that they had.
And then they had, as you said, they had to fight for everything that they had.
I think it's strange that I should have heard on the 3 interviews almost the same thing. The fact that they had to really get their money.
Yes,
That
that's
they had,
right.
that money was held in greater esteem at that time than it is now. It comes too easy now.
When I was a student in this college, in this university, there were no automobiles. Well, now you can just look at the parking lots that are covered with automobiles.
And you walked to school after that?
I walked to school.
And that was how far? Several miles?
Well, no, I lived in Stillwater. It was about a mile, I suspect.
And now nobody can walk a mile.
No, nobody walks even 3 blocks.
Isn't that the truth? Well, you said you remembered your first automobile. What else do you remember about that time? You've seen automobile, radio, of course television, airplane. You remember the first plane?
I don't remember the first plane.
I remember mine. It was
Do
in
you?
1914. I was in
I don't-
Jackson, Mississippi, and I remember so well that it was just during the war that they came through, and I saw the first airplane, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. Terrific.
The radio was made a great impression on me because a friend of ours invited me to come to their house to listen to New York. Oh, that was something, I tell you. It was something.
That was the thrill of a lifetime, huh?
Yes, it really was.
That was before or after you'd been there?
That was before I had been there.
So you just had a chance to imagine it all.
That's right.
Those crystal sets were wonderful, weren't they? When you really stop and think that that was the first real fast communication that the average citizen experienced. Of course, we'd had telegraph up to that, but and telephone. But radio was the first quick
Communication medium.
It really was. Well, I wish you'd tell me some more about your languages. I know that there are many experiences that you could tell me, and class experiences, and You think of anything like that?
Well, I don't think of anything.
I think you're as bad as I am. Penny came over to interview me, and I said, you shouldn't have done this. I've gone blank completely. I can't, if I had known ahead of time, I would have written it down, but I have completely gone blank. I can't remember a name or a date or anything else. So he had to come back with me. I was out. I couldn't remember any of it. Who has been the most popular professor since you've been here?
The most popular professor
Mm-hmm.
since I have been here?
Mm-hmm. The most beloved. Other than Dr. Bennett, of course.
Well, I don't know. I would hesitate to say.
Uh-huh. Well, then tell me some of the outstanding ones that you remember.
Well, the outstanding ones that I remember are, as I mentioned, Mr. Arnold,
Mm-hmm.
who is the head of the foreign language department, and his assistant, and then the head of the School of Commerce,
Oh?
which was the School of Commerce,
Mhm.
it's now the Business
Yes.
College.
Who was that?
That was Dr. Raymond Thomas.
Now, his name hasn't come up before. Can you tell me something about him?
Well, I don't know that I can tell you anything about him, except that he was really a good teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and
Well, the School of Commerce started very small, did it not?
yes, it really did.
And it's grown now into one of the major colleges.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Do you still live here in Stillwater?
Yes, I do.
Mm-hmm. Have your home here?
I do.
Yeah. Do you ever run into your old students and chat with them?
Well, I was privileged to be a chairman of the Alumni Association, the Golden Century. Well, I was privileged to be a chairman of the Alumni Association, the Golden Century, half-century club.
Really? Uh-huh.
Year before last, it
Uh-huh.
was.
Uh-huh. So,
And so I do run into some of my...
well, I imagine that was a thrilling
Mhm.
experience,
Yes,
too, was
it really
it not?
was. It really was.
Half century, that's a long while, isn't it?
Yes, it sounds longer
What was the
that
year
way.
you graduated?
1914.
14.
Mhm.
That's a long while. Was there anything else about Oklahoma you'd like to tell me, or about the school?
I don't believe there is.
Not another thing?
I
Now,
don't-
you know that back there are just lots of things that you're not telling me. You were here then during the 50-year celebration for the college then. I mean, for the university, were you not?
Yes.
That must have been a wonderful year. Celebration.
It was. We met in the auditorium, which was then the auditorium. It's now the Saritian Center, I believe, for the fine arts, for the performing arts. And it was at that time the college auditorium. We met in that. We had to
Well, lots of people here then who came back during that year, weren't there?
Yes, there were.
Mm-hmm. Some very famous people, too, came to be alums during that year. I understand Dr. Bennett started that Founders Day and Founders Year.
Yes, he did.
Well, Dr. Oursler, it's been perfectly wonderful talking with you. And I thank you so very, very much. And we'll be putting this on tape and hoping that you can hear it sometime. It'll go into our archives. And we'll have, many people will be using it to talk about you and to talk about languages at OSU and to talk about the growth of OSU.